One of the things that I have always felt was the key to pacing was knowing the PowerPoint upside down and backwards. By knowing a PowerPoint, that allows you to know where all the difficult slides are, where the easy slides are, where the long slides are, where the short slides are. If we have a roadmap created of that class, of that lesson before we've started it, it allows for a lot more in our minds. We know when to move quicker, when to slow down, and even in just a basic class. If we don't know what's coming next, we will never be able to pace ourselves correctly in a class.
Try to set the pace right from the beginning, where I'm going to say something and then give some wait time, and I expect some kind of response, and then we can build from there.
Well, I can usually tell the student's ability level immediately when I'm asking those questions at the very beginning, like, how are you? You know, and if it's taking them a while to come up with a response, then I'm like, okay, I kind of get a feel for how the class is going to go. So I frequently look at the clock and I compare it to the slide I'm on. So if I'm on slide 10, then I should probably be somewhere around 10 or 11 minutes on the clock. And then if I'm not, then I'll say, okay, well, I try to pick out what are the most important things to cover on this slide. And then I try to increase my pace a little bit. I also look at my notes and I'll say, okay, well, I've got 3 slides that are clapping out syllables coming up. That probably won't take too much time. So then I know I can spend a little extra time on the harder slides. So I look at my notes a lot whenever the class is kind of moving slower. And so I can anticipate, okay, I could speed up on these next couple of slides and it'll be okay, you know. And then sometimes the class is going too fast, and so I'll say, okay, I need to ask more questions, you know. I'll think, what question could I ask, you know, to kind of slow the class down. So I watch the clock a lot, and then I look at my notes a lot to kind of keep me on track.
So one of the things that I do for students who are above, those are the kids that require extensions. I found that the best extensions are created in the prep time. So if you're going to create solid, good quality extensions that help students to think cognitively, it has to happen before you walk into the class. So usually when I prep, I like to think about either the specific student or either think, how might I extend this specific PowerPoint slide if I need to get a little bit more from a student who this content's just too easy for them.
I had to adjust with Neo because I had done a lot of extension early on. And so I keep an eye on my timer because timing is critical to make sure you can get through all of the information in the amount of time and not too quickly. I started adjusting the amount of extension that I did based on knowing how much time I had left and how many slides I had left to complete.
On the other hand, students who are below, those are really difficult kids. It's actually, honestly, it's really painful to see a kid in a level that's way too hard for them. So one of the things that I try and focus on is not making them feel inadequate, not making them feel stupid, so to speak. Sometimes children who are in a level that's just too hard for them may feel that they should know better. That can really defeat their confidence. So I want to make them feel good. So usually, having done this in the prep time in the previous, I looked for ways to simplify or exemplify the use of prompts. So maybe I bring in prompts that help create better understanding, or I simplify it, or I focus on things that I know they can do successfully and then commend them. We make the best out of the situation that we can. And of course, when you have to move on, you have to move on. So seeing the time, one of the things that I've always been told when it comes to timing and pacing is 1 slide per minute. So an average of 1 to 1 For me, every time I flip to the next slide, I always check the clock real fast. Where am I at? I should be close to 1-to-1. If I'm a little bit behind, I need to speed myself up. Or if the student is really flying through it, maybe we need to create some more extensions. So a lot of it has to do with where are you in the class and just thinking inside of the class, but also looking for the best way to make the student feel comfortable and either simplify or extend depending on the situation.
I had that happen Friday night. A little girl I teach probably 4 times a week, so we see each other all the time. She was just talking and talking to me, and I was like, hey, you know, I was like, time out, like that. I said, we got to finish the class. We're running out of time, you know.
The whole lesson, actually, I was concerned about pacing because this particular child had so much to say, and she wanted to share it with me, and she wanted my input and my response. Because it was so early in the lesson, I went ahead and let her and just do all the sounds because I knew I could catch up later on, because I knew some of those slides, she's gonna meet the objective immediately. So I could kind of play with the pacing a little bit later, knowing your parameters for the class, 25 to 28 minutes. I already knew by that time I was behind my pacing, so I had to find some places to catch up. Like, for example, if you're gonna do the vocabulary on this slide and the next 2 slides, and you know you have opportunities to repeat and extend over the next couple of slides, I kind of think of those as like a block of time that I can spend flexibly. So that just happened to be one that I could kind of zoom through, but I'm still hitting the target and I'm still getting to that speaking objective or that output objective for the student. Sometimes in your mind you have a plan about how you want to teach a slide, and it's not going to go that way. So you need to just be flexible and kind of make the most of that moment. And okay, I've got 1 to 2 minutes on this slide, or 30 seconds to 1 minute, and it's not headed the direction I thought it was going to go. That doesn't have to derail everything. You can still meet the learning objectives and be able to get some really rich teaching and learning going on, even if it's not exactly how you had kind of planned it in your mind.
When we get to a goodbye slide, of course, time is a big deal because depending on how much time I have left will depend on what I do. We're gonna finish out. We're gonna get the last bit of slide of our rewards. You know, my stars coming out. It's gonna be like, oh yes! It's gonna be popping in there. It's gonna be. So yes, awesome job. High five. Whoop whoop. Okay, I will see you on Thursday. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. See you Thursday. Have a good night.